Hello, and thank you for your time today. My name is Jim Lydotis, and I'm a portfolio manager at Newton, where I've been working for the last 23 years. I'm here today to talk about the outlook for the global healthcare real estate sector. Real estate assets, both public and private, appeal to investors because they offer two very incredibly attractive characteristics: defensive business models and income. But today I would add a third attribute that has been really much front of mind for investors and in demand most recently, and that's inflation protection. With the latest data points in the US showing inflation running at levels not seen in 30 years, investors are increasingly looking for areas with the types of contractual protection that the healthcare REIT sector provides, as most lease terms across the healthcare REIT segment of the market contain contingent rent escalators that are tied to consumer price indices. As the world emerges from the initial COVID outbreak of 2020, and today over 3 billion people in the world are now fully vaccinated, for much of the developed world, everyone who wants a vaccine has been able to receive it. The healthcare REIT industry properties, they cater to some of the world's oldest and generally most vulnerable portions of the population. This portion of the population was disproportionately impacted by the initial spread of the COVID virus. It follows then that the portion of the population most adversely impacted initially by the virus would be the same portion most benefiting from the vaccine. And that, in fact, is what we are witnessing. The healthcare REIT sector is a combination of a few groups, and the outlook for each of these is a bit different. So I'd like to call out two areas specifically and talk a little bit about each of those, and that's medical office buildings and skilled nursing. Medical office buildings were generally the least impacted from the initial spread of the virus. The trends that were in place pre-COVID, which were mainly the consolidation of the industry, well, those continued over the last 2 years. And in fact, they continue today as strong as ever. One call out that we have had for the last few years is the opportunity for some of the historically more US focused healthcare REITs to take their business models overseas for growth. That trend continues today, and we're starting to witness collaborations with other more historically infrastructure focused investors. We think this reflects a very real mindset change in the industry. And as this continues to play out, this will further lower the cost of equity for the healthcare REITs, making further acquisitions even more attractive than they are today. Skilled nursing, as another group, was probably the hardest hit segment of the healthcare REIT sector over the last 2 years. The aging demographic of the baby boomers in the developed world is providing a very strong tailwind to the supply-demand dynamic in that sector. The last 2 years have been toughest on this group, as this houses generally the most vulnerable of the population. Move-ins to these facilities, they slowed over the last 2 years as people were understandably reticent to move elderly members into these facilities. We're now at the point of providing booster vaccine shots to much of the most vulnerable population. And as comfort levels increase in these facilities, we believe we have reached a trough in utilization rates, and we should increase from here. In addition, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has recently authorized over $25 billion in funding for operators, adding further support for this group. While we need to monitor wage pressures and operator collections very closely in this group, given some of the pressures of the last 2 years, we believe we stand at a positive inflection point for the group heading into 2022. As we look forward into 2022, the two characteristics that have historically drawn so much focus to the group, again, defensive business models and income, well, those continue to hold true. Coupled with inelastic demand as the world continues to age, and the inherent inflation protection provided contractually across the entire healthcare REIT sector, we remain highly convicted on the outlook for the group heading into 2022. With some of the highest yields across all of global real estate, the prospects today remain very favorable for the group heading into 2022. Thank you.